Thank you all, and thanks, Wyatt, for having me at this event. The focus of this session is health, and when we think about this, the question is, how can AI as a technology, we have all heard about it, it's like a buzzword today. Like if you're not talking about AI, you're missing out something. So what is it that AI can do for health and life sciences? So before sort of starting on this journey, I would like to sort of start with this understanding of what is this new era that we are embarking on with the development of AI? And why is AI actually relevant in biology? If you think about what's unique about our planet, the question is, what's unique about our planet? Any answers? Life, exactly. Life is unique about our planet. In the whole universe, we have been searching and we have been looking through billions and trillions of stars and galaxies, and yet we have yet to encounter life. Life, it's so amazing, it's so complicated, it's amazing, it's what makes us all sort of tick. That's why we are here, right, to discuss at this event. So what is it that is so complicated about life and so sophisticated? It's just the most sophisticated thing that we have encountered in the universe. That's the most sophisticated thing, like by far. Just to sort of give you an example, if you think about sort of what are we, like as chemically, how would you sort of describe you and me? We are, if someone was to sort of say, well, if an alien sort of species came in and says, well, that's a human, what's the chemical sort of makeup of that human? Majority of it is just water, right? We are just floating bags of water moving around in the world. So what is it that makes us special, that makes me able to sort of talk and for you for generating these sound waves and for you to sort of listen to these sound waves, make sense of it, reason about it? What is it that is actually making it work? It's not the water, right? It plays a part, but it's not just the bag of water. It's sort of the building blocks of life, these very complicated and very sophisticated molecules that sort of interact with each other to make these remarkable sort of phenomena happen. And one such sort of molecule and one of the key sort of building blocks of life is proteins. And that was the key sort of challenge that scientists across many sort of disciplines and many decades have sort of thought about, like, how do these magical molecules work? They are the building blocks of life. They are, as if you may, like the Lego blocks of life. How do they interact with each other? How do they make the magic of life happen? And one such, so what are these proteins, right? These are very simple, sort of in some sense, sort of simple molecules. You have a sequence of amino acids. Of course, like you would have heard about proteins. I mean, for this audience, I don't have to explain proteins in that much detail, but they are essentially a sequence of amino acids linked together, and that's essentially a protein molecule. And the key sort of challenge that scientists have is, if you are given this sequence of amino acids or any given protein, what is the shape or what is the structure of that protein? Because that informs its function. And this has been a sort of a long-standing problem. Sort of people have, Nobel Prize winners have said that this is one of the sort of key problems for us to sort of solve. It's like a grand challenge problem in science. And even for finding the structure of one single protein, sometimes it takes a PhD worth of work, 5 years or sometimes even more. And if you think about the human sort of proteome, like there are 20,000 sort of proteins, and only a small fraction of those were in fact known. And now imagine the whole of the richness of life in the world and in the universe, and like on Earth, and you would think that there are billions of these proteins, and we are yet to understand the full sort of structure of these sort of proteins. And that was the protein structure prediction problem. Given a sequence of amino acids, can you figure out the structure of proteins? And people have been on it for many decades, and were not able to make that much progress. And then came AI and machine learning. So just to give you an example of what it sort of looks like, this is a sequence of a protein. So every 3-letter combination here represents an amino acid. And if you combine them in a sort of chain, it makes a protein. Okay, so this is what a protein looks like. It's just a sequence of these amino acids, each amino acid represented here by this 3-letter symbol. This protein essentially is why we are all here. If this protein didn't work, will not sort of work. And that's essentially the problem. Like, you want to understand what is the structure of this protein. So what AlphaFold, this AI system that DeepMind developed now sort of almost 4 years back, was able to do is read this sequence and produce this structure. Any guesses on what this protein is? When it's revolving, I mean, the hint, there is a hint in the structure of the protein. As it revolves, you might sort of see it. Hemoglobin, exactly. Without this protein, we will not be here. If this protein does not work, I mean, it's not able to sort of, hemoglobin is not able to sort of carry oxygen in our blood, we will not be here today, right? And you can sort of see that there is this, as it rotates, there is this hole that appears where the oxygen sort of binds into the protein. So the structure, understanding the structure of this protein is so crucial. And that's what sort of the magic of AI is, what AlphaFold is able to do. It's able to figure out the structure of this protein from the sequence that I just showed you before. So this is AlphaFold in action. You can see how sophisticated these proteins can be, and how sort of it sort of reasons about it like in an iterative way to figure out this sort of structure out of the infinite possible, exponentially amount of possible structures that this protein could have taken. Okay, so what's the impact? I mean, so when we developed AlphaFold, we knew that this is a grand scientific sort of challenge. It's an amazing sort of problem. Many people have sort of looked at it. It had a lot of biological sort of significance. But truly, I personally did not comprehend the magnitude of impact. We have shared the predictions made by AlphaFold in a database with our partners, EMBL, the European Microbiology sort of lab. They are based in Cambridge, and so people can use those structures, and that database has 1.7 million users. So, I mean, just that number came as a surprise to me, that there are 1.7 million people on this planet who care about proteins in that detailed way. That's a great reason to be optimistic about the world, right? That there are people who really care about understanding the secrets of life, how the mechanisms of life, and it also sort of shows like the impact such fundamental technology could have. These were people coming from sort of all across the world, 190 sort of countries. They looked at sort of 5 million of these structures. And the paper has almost 80,000 sort of citations. It was considered the breakthrough of the year, 2021, method of the year. It's sort of the most cited AI paper of the year 2022 when it was sort of published. So, well, that's like a lot of user statistics and academic impact. But what does it mean in practice? And if you sort of look at actually the applications that are affected by this technology, they span across a whole spectrum, from finding enzymes to decompose plastics, to sort of antibiotic resistance, to really understanding the structure of life. Like one of my personal sort of favorites is the one in the top right, which is the nuclear pore complex. So this is sort of a small hole that is on the nucleus, which sort of controls what material goes into the nucleus and what material comes out. And the structure, if you can sort of see, I mean, it is a combination of many different proteins working together to sort of collapse this hole. This is like in in every single sort of cell in your human body. And scientists did not know about the mechanism and the structure of this very basic fundamental unit. And with AlphaFold 2, scientists were able to sort of piece together this puzzle. So that's like an amazing sort of breakthrough in our understanding of our own sort of not just us, but like life itself. We have looked at AlphaFold, sort of being used for neglected diseases, sort of for vaccine development, for sort of drug discovery, and like we have a whole spin-off called Isomorphic Labs, which is specifically is extending this research towards sort of drug discovery now. So what has AlphaFold done? It has accelerated research. It has sort of expanded what was possible earlier. There are certain proteins, even if you sort of spent 5 years and $1 million, you will not be able to find the structure. So it sort of has expanded what sort of people can do. And finally, it has democratized scientific research. The scientists working in a developing country sort of on a neglected tropical disease did not have access to the funds to get the structure of a protein computed. That would have taken a lot of time. And now with a click of a button, they can go to the sort of AlphaFold database and can get these predictions for free. So that's the power of these systems. Now, biology does not stop at proteins. In fact, if proteins were the ingredients, the genome is our recipe book, right? It basically says, well, to make a human, here are the ingredients, and here are the things that you need to do to make the human. And now the complexity of our genome, like we are quite complicated entities. Like just to give you an idea, like there are sort of more than 40 volumes of books with very small font sizes that are required to sort of list the whole sort of reference genome for even a single individual, right? And that just tells you the complexity of genome of life. So if you want to sort of go beyond sort of proteins, you want to understand sort of genes, like you want to understand, you want to go from gene sequences to molecular sort of phenotypes, how these proteins are which are encoded by the genome work, like how does cell genomics understand the logic of cells, how do cells sort of change their state, and finally sort of at the human sort of genetics level, sort of go from a genome description to understanding what's the effect it's going to have at a system level on diseases and so forth. So I told you about the genome. It has these two parts, the coding part, which says how should you sort of prepare the proteins, what are the proteins that need to be sort of represented. And then the non-coding part, this is like the dark matter of the genome, which says how do these sort of proteins are expressed in every tissue in our sort of body. And both are interesting sort of problems to sort of look at, like both the coding part as well as the non-coding part. So in the coding part, we want to understand if there's a change here, how does it influence sort of protein function? And on the non-coding part, if there's a change in the dark part of the genome, we want to understand how does it sort of change sort of protein expression. And DeepMind has sort of done work in both these sort of areas and has sort of published a number of sort of high impact papers in Science and Nature. So one particular sort of problem that I wanted to mention is the problem of that our model alpha missense tries to solve, which looks at a particular effect of a missense variant. If there is a mutation in the coding part of the genome which affects the structure of the protein, it might have a pathogenic or a benign effect. And this is understanding and predicting that effect is really crucial for understanding sort of for discovery of rare genetic diseases and so on. And alpha missense, which was released last year, was one of the most accurate models of this type, and has been already sort of been used by clinicians like in many different contexts. Finally, we released AlphaFold Next Generation last year, which goes beyond proteins and now thinks about other biomolecules. How do proteins interact with nucleic acids, DNA, small ligands in the context of drug discovery, and so on. So there's a whole sort of continuity of work that needs to be sort of done, and we are doing that on this line. Finally, sort of, I titled that slide wrapping up, but in fact, it should be saying it's just the beginning. I think AI and machine learning, with AI and machine learning, finally we have the tools to really understand and comprehend this very sophisticated system that we call life. And I think it will give us a chance to sort of have a better understanding of not only sort of life on this planet, but also how do humans, in fact, work. So with that, I'll conclude. Thanks.